And once again, Nigeria, it's time for the newspaper review. Let's find out the headlines on the papers this morning. And we will start with The Nation, like we always do. And this says Nigeria projects $1 billion in trade investment from Japan summit. We get to talk about this on the show, quite important. We'll move straight to the Leadership newspaper, where it talks about housing. And it says FG housing estates rot away in Nasarawa 4 years after inauguration. This is where we look at accountability and checking, if the houses we have actually can stand the test of time. Now we move straight to The Guardian, where we are going to speak about salary. We move straight to The Guardian, where we're going to speak about road tax scheme stalls after delivering 2.6 million projects. And there's been a lot of conversation about this as well, government officials fighting here and there. We'll get to speak about it. And we'll go to the Daily Times, where we're going to talk about salary now. It says ADC rejects hike in salaries of political office holders, says Nigerians need pay rise. Okay, we had this conversation on the table. I think that was sometime this week. We'll get to talk about that on the show. We'll move straight now to the Punch newspaper, where we're talking politics. It says Wike Makinde rift threatens high stakes PDP convention. We get to talk about that. That's on the Punch. We move straight to the Hope newspaper, where we'll be talking security. And it says powerful Nigerians behind festering cases of banditry. That's what the police is saying. That's quite a strong statement. And then we move straight to the Blueprint newspaper. We move straight to the Blueprint newspaper, where it says with 58.9 million offensive content, FG shuts down over 13 million social media accounts. We just spoke about that on the show. We'll definitely still touch on that. And now we go to This Nigeria, where it speaks on corporal punishment, and it's saying WHO calls for an end to the practice globally. I totally agree with that. And then we go straight to Platform Times, where it says 4.2 million fraud. Oshun Oba remanded in American prison. Okay, and then our last paper is the Sporting Life, where we are going to look at Lookman, and they're saying Lookman prefers Arsenal. Who doesn't prefer Arsenal, or who prefers Arsenal? We'll get to talk about that straight on the show. But let's start with The Nation newspaper. And we're looking at this fantastic headline. Oftentimes when the president travels, people are like, oh, he's always traveling. But like I said, the more you travel, the more investment you can get for Nigeria. And this is saying that Nigeria projects $1 billion in trade investment from Japan summit. Etoma, what do you make of this?
It's good news, and I hope we finally get more than $1 billion investment at the end of the day. This is just a projection. The Japanese contingent said at the end of one of the meetings they had that they are looking at sending 5.5 billion or investing 5.5 billion in Africa. I do remember yesterday when I talked about it, I said, is it yesterday or the day before? I said, what I like about what Mr. President is doing is that he's not just talking about Nigeria there, he's talking about Africa. Bringing investments into Africa. Now we're seeing the results. I really hope that we, at the end of the day, get more than $1 billion US investment coming from Japan.
Yeah, but Ibrahim, we're seeing the president visit so many places. We've seen China, we've seen Japan now. And, oftentimes we see on social media that, oh, he keeps traveling around. Opposition has even been saying it. He's more out of the office than he is in office. But when he goes out, we now hear news like this. Even when we see news like this, some people are still like, oh, we always hear and it doesn't come into play. But now we're looking at such a huge sum of money, and it's not just Nigeria. We're looking at the whole Africa. And we've spoken about how important it is investing in Africa.
I tell you that since 1884, where we had the scramble of Africa, there's still very much more, scrambling for Africa by some of these countries. So if you look at the relationship between the global north and the global south, where they are saying that, okay, they are higher when it comes to development, and then we are on the lower rung. So Nigeria and Japan have always been strategic partners. They've always had these bilateral relations, not just within Nigeria, but even outside Nigeria. Everyone is now aligning themselves with different countries, with US coming up with its own tariff ban, tariff imposition and all of that. Countries are now scrambling for who should I do my business with? We know that Russia is coming in.
Yeah.
We know that even the French will be chasing them out of Africa one way or the other, especially in the Sahelan region. So now having Japan coming into Nigeria, in terms of technological advancement, they're there. In terms of mining, they're there. In terms of chips, they are also there. So they are really advanced. They've really advanced. Now investing this amount of money, not just in Nigeria, but Africa as a whole. Is it the TIFAD program that the president is attending? So it is a huge gain. Now, you made allusion to the opposition saying that especially Obi, Peter Obi, former president of, former governor of Anambra State, saying that the president has traveled several amounts of days, in 200 days in Nigeria. I mean, since he became president, he has actually gained a whole lot when it comes to his relationship with Brazil, the amount of money that they're now investing in terms of agriculture, etc. India is there, so many things.
And at the end of the day, we're just looking at the investments in Africa. But let's move to the leadership, where this story really breaks my heart, because it says FG Housing Estates rot away in Nasarawa 4 years after inauguration. And I'm wondering, why is this still happening when we have homeless people? Why are we having houses rotting away? And if you see the picture on the paper from when the house was built to what the house has dilapidated to, quite sad in, Etoma quickly.
Bureaucracy and bottlenecks, when you build a house and nobody inhabits the house, no matter how beautiful, even if it's a mansion, it will dilapidate. Those houses were built, but they were not located. Some of them were built and they were not completed. So, and funding stopped halfway. It stopped halfway. So, and that's a fallout of scoring political points rather than doing the right thing. If I want to do a housing program for my state or for my country, I would want a situation where I have planned out the money and then I have put together a funding system that is automated. So whether I'm in office or I'm not in office, the project goes on to its conclusion. It's really sad when we see things like this and we are suffering serious housing deficit.
For me, it hurts me because people are homeless, and then to see houses rot away is quite sad. But Ibrahim, I'll take us straight to The Guardian, where we are going to speak about road tax scheme. And they say it stalls after delivering 2.6 trillion projects. And there has been a back and forth. People are saying that, oh, it's a good scheme. People are saying it's a bad scheme. People are saying now they are stopped. There's no money to continue the roads. But quickly, what do you make of this, Ibrahim?
Yes, so, it's PPP arrangements. The federal government devoting amount of money for the project. I think Dangote is there. Is it Tony Elumelu also? I guess so. But there are some of these giants who also keyed into it. But the sharp decrease of naira to dollar has affected all the projects that they have on the ground, and then the amount of money that has been spent, well over 3 trillion naira projects. So having it stored, government is a continuum. When you have a project that's supposed to be done by an administration, but they are not able to finish it, another administration comes, following it through has always been a problem, just vis-a-vis the housing project that you mentioned. So it is all over but I guess the government is also looking at, okay, how do we resolve this road tax scheme? Because it was actually introduced by former President Muhammad Buhari in 2019.
I hope they look into it very fast. Etoma, quickly, I'll take you to the Daily Times. And this topic, we spoke about it on the show. It says, ADC rejects hike in salaries of political office holders. They say Nigerians need pay rise.
I mean, this is a period.
But let me ask you this question quickly. Do our politicians need a pay rise, yes or no?
Don't put me in a spot.
I knew he was going to say that.
I'm not a politician.
Well, ask him whether he needs a pay rise. He will tell you.
Do you need a pay rise?
Don't put me on the spot.
So ADC is saying that, they do not need a pay rise. Nigerians rather need pay rise.
Look, this thing is it's propaganda. It's PR. This is the time where ADC has to keep saying things that will endear them to the average Nigerian. And this pay rise thing happens to be too juicy for them. In fact, I would have been surprised if they had not said anything about it. Yes, I would have been very, very surprised. So
when I saw the news, I was waiting. I'm like, something needs to come. I was actually waiting. But then a lot of people will argue that do our politicians need pay rise after all the allowance they get? Nigerians actually do need pay rise. But let's race quickly, Ibrahim. Let me take you to the Punch, where there's still a shutdown in PDP. It's sad that this party, no matter what happens, they are still not starting. And we see Wike Makinde rift threatens high-stakes PDP convention.
Wike and Makinde, they used to be friends partners in, I don't want to use the other word, you can fill in the gap yourself, especially in the build up to 2023 election, where they insisted that presidency or the president must be zoned to the south. Now, with Makinde now looking to hosting the convention in November, I think November 15th and 16th, Wike saying that he's not aware of it, and he's a member of, he's a NEC member, and he's not aware. And then PDP has to respect the leader, the one who is supposed to be the vice chairman of the PDP, and that of the zonal chairman of the South or Southeast, has to also be, acknowledged. But he's saying that PDP is not doing the right thing. How on earth would they think of going for zonal convention? So if the right thing is not done, then nothing is going to come out of that
I can't wait to see how it pans out. But we'll race quickly to the Hope Etoma, and I'm taking you to security. And this statement is quite powerful. It says, powerful Nigerians behind festering cases of banditry. This is what the police is saying. Now, we've heard a lot of it, insecurity. We've spoken about it a lot on this table. When is it going to end? And now we're seeing the Hope newspaper saying that powerful Nigerians are behind this.
Now, we've had other powerful people make these statements before now. We've had other organizations, though mostly civil society organizations, saying this. But coming from the police, one will just believe that it is a product of investigations that they have done. Now, if you are that sure that powerful people are behind it, name names. Exactly,
drop names. It's high time we start hearing names, because I feel like when those names are dropped, then people can be, brought to book. But Ibrahim, let's race quickly to this Nigeria. It says corporal punishment. Now, who calls for an end to this practice globally? We know what this punishment is. I'm always against physical punishment. I feel like it's too much. But now, who is saying that, they're calling for an end to it globally?
Yes, the World Health Organization is, really, if you look at, they are looking at it from their own cultural background. But if you look at the African cultural background, they'll tell you that, come on, well, I think the Bible says, spare the rod and spoil the child. But the Bible is not saying that you should not take care of the child when he or she has erred. The way we were raised growing up, I remember whenever I've done something wrong.
You were beaten?
My dad, hold on now. Oh, okay. My dad, in his agbada regalia, would just come into the living room, sit down. Ibrahim, get me water get me something from the bedroom. Yeah. By the time I got into the room, I would just say, why, serious Kuboko? And I would be like, Mom is just sitting there without even interfering, and if I've also erred on the side of, Mom, I will also get a beating of my life. It shaped me. But I'm not saying that I got corporal punishment. My dad was a disciplinarian. We were both teachers. You know how teachers will always take care of children. So, but no one is saying that you should batter your children. But,
spare the rod and spoil the child.
Yeah, but, one way or the other, but I think what makes sense is sit them down, talk to them, explain why they should do what and not do the other, right? But then, whenever they seem to be very, very obstinate, come on.
Well, Etoma, let me come to you on this issue too as well, because I see you have a lot to say. When it comes to me, I feel like there's no amount of beating you can beat a child that will make the child do what you want the child to do. I feel like sometimes conversations, maybe it's the generation that I am right now, but I feel like conversations actually work rather than the koboko, like you said.
Look,
but Etoma, what do you make of this?
There are some slaps that will reset your brain.
You think so?
Oh, yes.
African mothers.
African mothers. In fact, they have this one where they'll just grab the child's head, tuck the child's head under there, and slap the back of. Look, you need to see.
That's violence.
You need to see the reaction of the child. It is like, but on a very serious note now, it is. It's cultural. It's cultural. The West doesn't believe in it at all.
Yeah.
That's why some people have sent their children back to Nigeria.
But anyway, so now who is calling against it globally and saying that they do not want it anymore? And I totally agree. I'm not big on violence.
We'll wait for enforcement.
Okay, but let's go straight to the platforms. And it says $4.2 million fraud. Oshun Oba remanded in American prison. And this is very scary. So these are things we don't expect from a particular leader. And then he pleads guilty to defrauding U.S. COVID-19 relief schemes. Etoma, quickly.
It's a show of shame. An Oba is an elevated position. He's supposed to be the example of who a right and upright person should be. you're supposed to be a role model for the people that you used to pretend over. For this to happen, it's bad. I'll give him some, cut him some slack that he pleaded guilty. You know, he did not make so much noise about it.
I think that money is very, very huge.
Quickly,
you know,
we're hearing an Oba is pleading guilty.
No, it's so sad. You know, during the
really
COVID-19, COVID relief, and then it was like, okay, it's very desperate. So everyone thought the earth was going to end, the world was going to come to an end, and then you were still racing to, like, you know, defraud other people.
He was sure the world wouldn't come to an end.
It's so sad. It's where's your humanity?
Really
but yes, we'll go quickly to Sporting Life, which is our last paper for the day, and it says Lookman prefers Arsenal. I don't know which team I prefer. Maybe Manchester United. What team
you will say now when you get on the pitch.
I like Arsenal.
So there are different reports. There's always been, you know, Lookman, Inter Milan, and others said that Lookman did not prefer Arsenal. He preferred another club. But now we understand that Arsenal, you know, is finally going in for Lookman. But he himself knows exactly what he wants. But one thing we need to get from, you know, these players is the fact that whatever club you find yourself, whatever amount of money you also maybe bought with or that are being pledged to repay to you while you do your thing on the pitch, always make sure you deliver. But I'm happy, you know, once again that our players are gaining this international reputation, not just within Nigeria, but way, you know, on a global scene. So it's a very good one. So if Arsenal is finally having Lookman,
and quickly, Etola, how does it make you feel with what Ibrahim is saying, that our players, we see that you're getting recognition, we see that people are seeing the talents, you know, in our players in Nigeria?
Oh man, it makes my chest really big. I am so proud that Nigerian boys are doing so well in football.
They're doing really well, and we're certainly proud of them. These are all we have on the paper this morning, but still